Spiritual Shock Absorbers by Ernest Holmes. We all remember the time when we didn't have very good shock absorbers on our automobiles, and how we bumped along the road, about half the time in the air or clutching at the side of the car to keep from being thrown out. We didn't drive very fast or very far in those days. And then along came the inventive genius of science, and now we sail along as though we were on air. Well, this is a very good illustration of our everyday lives, just ordinary human experiences. So much of the time we are frightened or discouraged by the shocks we meet, and we bump along the road of life, sometime up in the air, and often clutching at the slightest straw to regain our poise and balance. But there is more than one kind of a vehicle in which we ride through life. You see, we can put the physical body into a car and float along on its shock absorbers with comfort and with enjoyment. But what about this funny mind of ours, these strange and varied emotions that we have? Have we really found a shock absorber for them? Well, I am afraid that most of us have not. And the road gets pretty rough at times. We are so busy trying to keep from trouble that we often fail to catch a glimpse of the beautiful landscape that we are sailing through. Yes, we do need some kind of a mental and a spiritual shock absorber, so that the disappointments of life with their fears and failures will not put us off balance. Let's imagine that the mind is a vehicle which we can liken to an automobile that carries us along on the varying pathways of life, either in comfort and enjoyment, or more or less in a confused state, sort of dreading what's going to happen. For the road just ahead is always more or less uncertain, and life, if it is to be lived happily, must be met with a good-natured flexibility, with a calm poise and a balance that enables us to get along with ourselves and with everyone else in peace and in joy. If we are to find some power that will restore us mentally, just as we are restored physically, we shall have to find connections that enable us to relax, to really let go and let God take over. We are told that we can relax physically simply by first letting the head rest quietly on the pillow, then let the muscles of the neck relax while the head sinks down into the pillow. Then relax the arms and the chest, the muscles of the stomach and the lower limbs, until we actually are physically like a rag doll, just sprawled out, sinking into quiet repose. But this physical relaxation is impossible until the mind relaxes, and so the mind also must be in repose. It must feel that it is resting in the arms of an infinite love and wisdom, that it is being guided and directed by an intelligence greater than its own, and sustained by a power beyond its own. This we call faith, and it is the most necessary thing in life. What's the miracle of nature when this takes place? Everything is made new during the night, and we arise a new person, ready to meet another day with hope, with anticipation and joy. And now we get into our mental automobiles and start out on a day's trip. Perhaps the coffee is cold, the eggs are too hard or too soft, and the toast is burned. And perhaps we get so fussed up with these little things that we fail to meet our first hurdle, because we should enjoy our meals. But with every mouthful we swallow, we send a thought down to the stomach which says, "This is bad." We could just as easily get indigestion from this as not. The food refuses to assimilate, and This affects the eliminative process, all because we fail to have the right mental attitude toward what we are doing. Well, if science can build a physical absorber that takes up the shock when we drive our automobiles, why can't the mind build up a spiritual shock absorber that will absorb all the difficulties of the day with ease? An automobile isn't tired after it has completed its trip, and neither should we be weary with the day's work, which should be a thing of joy and not of drudgery. Life should be a triumphant procession of the Spirit, entering into experience with joy and coming through every experience with victory. The great spiritual shock absorber is faith, confidence, trust, just a simple childlike acceptance that life is made to live, just a letting go and letting God. But someone might say, how do you suppose that God is interested in the little things that you are doing? I wonder if we have thought this over carefully enough. To God, the giver of all life, there is neither great nor small. The power that created the mountain and holds it in place also created the grain of sand, for one life has entered into everything.